air-fuel ratio gauge kit arrived today, and we're going to be installing it in the charger. We'll see what it comes with here. Got the air-fuel sensor there. This is the gauge. In order for it to read properly, the sensor needs to be put in a certain position. As you can see, those bolts are pretty rotten. And I do have an exhaust manifold leak here. So I'm gonna end up replacing those rusted bolts, and I'm gonna take out the exhaust manifolds and replace the gaskets, because you don't want any exhaust leaks, because it will give you a bad reading if there's any leaks. The first thing to do to get these front pipes off is disconnect the O2 sensors here. And then you can undo the brackets on this side. And then we're gonna work with these bolts up on this end, what's left of them. I'm gonna start with disconnecting these clamps here, since they're so rusty and they're probably gonna break if I just impact them off. I'm gonna heat it up first, and then I will impact them off. And yeah, then we'll go. It's very hot, so I'm not going to touch that, but I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Alright, I got the bolts undone on each side. They're so rotted, so they all just broke, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. I got both these pipes out. This is what was left of the bolts there. There's still pieces of the bolt in the exhaust manifold, so I'm replacing all the bolts in the gaskets, because you want to make sure that there's absolutely no leaks or the sensor won't give you a proper reading. This is where I'm going to install the AF sensor. You want to make sure it's a certain angle so water doesn't get trapped in it. And also you want to make sure that you weld all the way around, that there's no pinholes or anything, because if there's any pinholes, then it will read leaner than it's supposed to be. Alright, so as you can see, I cut a slit in each of these because they're near impossible to get out when they're like that. You could heat it up while they're not on if you want. It just doesn't really work well in this case. You can choose to do what you want, but I just cut a slit in it, and now I'm gonna put something on it and hit it loose with a hammer. Get the old stud out. Okay, so I was able to get the old stuff out. As you can see, it got a little cut up there, but I'm gonna put a new nut on the other end to help hold things in place. This is the driver's side cat. You want to make sure that it at least has a 10-degree slope pointing downward, so there's no fluid getting in it. I've determined that that's the good spot to put it. You want to get it as far away from the engine as possible, but it needs to be on this side of the cat. So I'm going to drill a hole there and put a hole in there big enough to install the threads for the AF sensor. After you drill a hole large enough for this to fit in, you're going to want to clean up around this metal so you can get a nice solid weld on there. Okay, the metal is cleaned up and it's in place. Now you gotta weld all the way around and make sure you don't have any pinholes or anything. Okay, so I got that welded into the spot that I wanted it to. You want to make sure that there's no holes in it. And I'm gonna start putting the pipe back into position now. These are the old bolts. And this is what's left of the studs that are holding front pipes on. These are the new ones, and they're solid. This is the wire that connects the AF sensor to the gauge, so I'm gonna run this through the firewall there, down to that area. That's where the sensor's gonna be in there. Yeah, so I got the wire fed through. I'm just gonna put it up under here, and it's gonna go up to where the gauge is gonna sit over here. So there's the gauge. This is the connector that goes into the back of it. You gotta connect the power and ground, and then the other wires for accessory. This goes to the sensor, and the pod's gonna go right here. So this is gonna be the accessory on power, and this is the ground, the black one, and the other two are gonna be left off for now. So I'm gonna run a wire from under the hood for each of these and wire it up, and then tuck this up under their way, and then I'll get the pallet holder here. I'm gonna tap this positive wire into a connection here that turns on with the key on. So I have the red wire wired in there, and I got the blue wire grounded here. Gonna connect them here now. I'm going to now reinstall the exhaust pipe with the new hardware there. And, yeah, once we put the pipe in, then we'll install the sensor there. Okay, so I just gotta tighten those bolts on. And I disconnected the connector to that so I can screw it in there. And yeah, I'm gonna screw that in and then tighten up the exhaust connections. Got the sensor installed, and this is where it plugs in. Okay, don't have the pod in yet, but it's been wired up. Okay, we got this side in. Now I'm just gonna do the pipe on this side. I got a new gasket for it there, and I'm just gonna clean the surface up a little more and then put the gasket in place, and we'll start bolting the manifold in. I got the pipe back in place now, and they're tightened on both ends, and you want to make sure that all the oxygen sensors are plugged in. I plugged mine in, of course. Got everything bolted back into place, and I got some exhaust sealant there just to seal up any small leaks that might occur. So now I'm gonna start it up and check for any leaks around the joints. Alright, so I got the exhaust pipe back on there, so I'm gonna start it up and see if it works. Sounds good right now. I checked for leaks. Doesn't seem to be leaking. I still need to put the gauge pod in here, but that seems to be working. Just got it installed in this little gauge pod here. As you can see, I just twisted the clip on there. And I'm gonna mount it with mounting tape here so it doesn't damage the dash. And I'm just gonna line it up like that. Alright, so I got the gauge in place now. Doesn't really look the best there with the double-sided tape, but that's what I'm gonna run for now. And yeah, I'm gonna test drive it soon once I get her on the road, and we'll see how it works.